Welcome to another episode of Wild of Africa on WION World is One. Thank you for joining us. This week, we focus on the scramble for resources in some countries on the continent considered to be the richest in terms of minerals globally. One of those countries on our radar is the Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm Eric Njoka, and the show starts now. The small African kingdom of Lesotho has been hit with a 50% US tariff, the highest on the continent. Most of its population lives in poverty, and the tariffs are likely to worsen the situation. There is concern that the diamond industry, one of the country's major exports, will be significantly affected. Southern Africa was the worst affected by Trump's bombshell. Our correspondent Kalden Ongmu filed this report from Johannesburg.
After US President Donald Trump's much-touted Liberation Day announcement, it has been a roller coaster for several countries coming to terms with the hefty tariffs that have been imposed on them. The announcement has sown confusion, especially in this case in Africa. Southern African countries were particularly badly hit. Lesotho, the small southern African country that Trump claimed no one has heard of last month, was hit with the highest tariff rates at 50%. The country, which carries the second highest HIV burden of any other in the world, is still reeling from the shock of Trump's sweeping aid cuts earlier that have gutted HIV response efforts across the region. Other southern African countries hit were Madagascar, Mauritius, Botswana, and Angola. On the one hand, there is AGOA with its tariff-free agreement, and on the other, there is Trump outlining tariffs ranging from 10% to 50%. South Africa, which exports metals and cars to the US, believes this spells the end of AGOA. It was a terrible and devastating day for people involved in Lesotho's textile sector as they digested the news that the country's exports to the US would be hit by a 50% import tax or tariff. The small southern African nation has become the poster child for the African Growth and Opportunity Act, that's the AGOA. A 25-year-old piece of US legislation guaranteeing duty-free access to American consumers for certain goods from Africa. Considered the cornerstone of US-Africa economic relations, the aim was to help industrialize the continent, create employment, and lift dozens of countries out of poverty.
If it falls, it means a disaster to the country and its economy and the people.
South Africa's government, which has been involved in a series of spats with Washington in recent weeks, was the first to respond to the tariffs hikes. In a statement, President Cyril Ramaphosa's office called the tariffs on the country punitive and added that they would serve as a barrier to trade and shared prosperity. The government also pledged to seek redress with Washington.
We are all trying to work out how the US arrived at 60% discounted to 30% as the tariffs that we levy and therefore the discount they are giving. In reality, our tariffs average on the basis of most favored nations, tariffs are estimated 7.6%. And that's our calculation. Of course, we are speculating what the US is calculating. This, we assume, could include the trade balance, it could include other considerations.
South Africa and Nigeria are the top US trading partners on the continent. South Africa primarily exports precious stones, steel products, and cars to the US. Nigeria exports crude oil and other petroleum products. In return, the US exports crude oil, electrical goods, and aircraft to South Africa, and mostly vehicles and machinery to Nigeria. Heavier tariffs would have varying but largely negative impacts on African manufacturers, analysts say, and could lead to increased living costs and loss of jobs that would affect the general populace. In the short term, countries like South Africa appear to want to reason with Trump for more favorable terms. In general, African nations are likely to turn to alternative trading partners such as China to avoid US tariffs. Already for nearly 20 years, China has overtaken the US as Africa's top trading partner and represents one of the continent's largest bilateral lenders. Global markets have plunged on Trump's tariff decision, sending shockwaves worldwide. Back home in South Africa, the tariffs are expected to strain South Africa's economy, which is already grappling with various challenges. Automobile sector, along with agriculture and retail sector, is expected to be the worst hit. President Ramaphosa has said US, like any other country, is a sovereign state and they are entitled to take decisions whichever way they like on any international dealings, and they are within their own rights. Ramaphosa said South Africa will not act out of spite and emotions and will deal with the tariff matter in a responsible and proper manner. This is Kaldan Omo from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION The World is One.
For decades, the Democratic Republic of Congo, a Central African nation of more than 100 million people, has grappled with bloody militia violence, including ethnic and resource-driven armed rebellion by M23 and dozens of other armed groups. Roughly the size of Western Europe, the war-riven country is endowed with vast mineral wealth, including the world's largest reserves of cobalt and coltan, both critical to the production of electronics. Cobalt is used to produce batteries that power cell phones and electric vehicles, while coltan is refined into tantalum, which has a variety of applications in phones and other devices. And now, US President Donald Trump has expressed interest in minerals from this resource-rich nation. Here's a report.
The United States is in talks with conflict-plagued Congo on developing its mineral resources under a deal. The Congolese president says the deal with US could help make his country safer. US President Donald Trump's senior advisor for Africa, Masad Boulous, did not provide details of the potential deal following talks with Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi in Kinshasa, but said it could involve multi-billion-dollar investments. Boulous said American companies would be operating transparently and would stimulate local economies. Congo is the world's largest producer of cobalt, a mineral used to make lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles and smartphones. It has also substantial gold, diamond, and copper reserves. DR Congo has been battling Rwandan-backed M23 rebels who have seized larger areas of territory this year. Tshisekedi believes U.S. involvement in extracting the minerals could help quell the violence that has plagued the east of the country for nearly 30 years. Currently, DR Congo's mineral wealth is largely dominated by Chinese firms. Aside from security reasons, there are also economic motivations for pursuing the deal. Mineral and oil-dependent African economies are in distress as they face several fiscal imbalance of payment deficits. From minerals to oil and gas, commodity prices have collapsed in the last few years. The price of copper, for example, has dropped by 67% and oil by 51% since 2011. The slump in mineral prices is not bad news for all. Consider the case of mining companies. After reaping windfall profits at the peak of the commodity price boom, the plunging value of the currencies of many African mineral-rich nations is helping mining companies to cut their costs further. South Africa-based gold miners Goldfields Limited, which has operations in South Africa, Ghana, Australia and Peru, said its cash costs declined 3.1% in second quarter of 2015 from a year earlier to $1,059 an ounce. From Ghana to Zambia, attempts by various African nations to review their fiscal regimes and tax provisions in mining contracts to raise additional revenue to fund development were mostly unsuccessful. The continent ranks first or second in global reserves of bauxite, chromite, cobalt, industrial diamond, manganese, phosphate rock, platinum group metals, soda ash, vermiculite, and zirconium. Natural resources are finite. It is therefore essential for resource-rich African nations to tailor their economic policies to effectively harness and utilize these revenues to improve the productivity of non-mineral, oil and gas-related sectors to break out of the extractive enclave. A recent example from Malawi vividly highlights how the current international financial architecture and mining immensities are bleeding African nations on investable capital through IFFs. Malawi lost $43 million in revenue over a 6-year period from a single Australian mining company, Paladin, which owns a uranium mine in this impoverished southern African nation. The company used complex corporate structures to exploit loopholes in international tax rules after negotiating a huge tax break from the government, historically the extractive sector operates as an enclave with very minimal linkage to the broader economy. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
And still in Congo, rebels have halted municipal operations in the eastern DRC city of Bukavu, disrupting civil marriages, thereby leaving many couples in limbo. Some couples fear that their marriage may be deemed invalid. Others have since resorted to traditional ceremonies. Here's a report.
Blaise Mukenga and his fiancée Nadia planned to wed in early January. But when M23 rebels seized parts of Bukavu, routine municipal operations ground to a halt and civil ceremonies were suspended.
Our worry and fear is getting married and then after some time having the authorities tell us our marriages are no longer recognized because they were conducted when the city was under rebel control. So we are stuck. There's nothing we can do. We can only blame ourselves. We keep waiting.
Amid escalating conflict and a collapse of government services, couples across the region face unprecedented legal challenges. With civil institutions paralyzed, marriages performed during occupation risk invalidation, effectively halting. Even religious ceremonies that require prior state registration.
I came to see if I could get married as I was posted since February. I found some authorities are here, but I'm worried. I have doubts about the legality of this marriage. We are in a period of rebellion. I don't know what to say. That's my concern.
At Bethany Evangelical Church, Reverend Pastor Bonan Lweso stressed that state registration remains mandatory before any church ceremony. On the outskirts of Bukavu and less affected by the occupation, Civil Status Officer Luke Mulimbwa Mirindi urged residents to continue registering their civil acts.
State institutions register the marriage. It's after that they come to church. That means if you haven't been to the girl's family, if you haven't justified your marriage registration with state institutions, we cannot register or bless this marriage.
Everything happening here conforms to Congolese law, no other law. We do this for issuing birth certificates and registering marriages.
Left with little recourse, some couples have turned to traditional chieftaincy ceremonies. In Bukavu's Kabari neighborhood, some wedding celebrations continue amid a fragmented reality, with couples exchanging vows and signing certificates under the shadow of an uncertain legal future. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
In the Central African Republic, or CAR, the National Ballet is a factor of social cohesion and strives to make cultures communal in a fragmented country in the grip of conflict. But the former glory of Central African culture is struggling to survive due to lack of means. Here's a report from Bongi.
The dancers shake legs to the beat of the age-old dance of the caterpillars, typically performed in the south where the insects are gathered for food. 3 times a week, the National Ballet rehearses traditional dances of the many ethnic groups making up the Central African Republic.
We have various ethnic groups, so as the choreographer of the National Ballet, it needs to represent the Central African Republic. I can't just perform 2 or 3 dance steps. That doesn't mean anything.
They aim to preserve the heritage of the country, a mosaic of ethnic groups that is scarred by decades of conflict and instability and is among the world's poorest countries. To the jingle of bells and rhythmic thud of the drum and xylophone like balafon, the spinning silhouettes of the other dancers soon appear across the dilapidated stage, set up on waste ground in the capital Bangui.
Traditional dance has brought us together. After the recent wars, different ethnic groups were divided. Through these traditional dances, everyone from different ethnic groups, we are all united.
The country's culture minister says the National Ballet archives movements, sounds and rites that were the hallmark of traditional village communities to preserve them for future generations.
By integrating them as civil servants, we can ensure that the dancers are available at any time, on any occasion, and that at the end of the month they do not receive a subsidy, but rather a salary, which is much more deserving for their situation.
The ballet company is now gearing up for its show during the World Expo Universal Exhibition in Osaka, Japan, which begins this month. For a decade until 2013, the Central African Republic was racked by civil wars and intercommunal conflict. And although the violence has lost intensity since 2018, tensions persist. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
The Grannies International Football Tournament was held this year in the northern province of Limpopo. The 4-day Grannies World Cup was held in a stadium with mountain views, and the 30-minute games were played in 2 halves at a slow but purposeful pace between teams from as far as the United States, France and Togo. Here's a report.
In the heart of South Africa's Limpopo, grandmothers from around the globe came together for an extraordinary event, the Grannies World Cup. This unique international football tournament, celebrating both active aging and the strength of community, united over a dozen teams from across Africa, Europe and beyond.
It is exciting to be here with so many women and to be able to play at this age. I did not play when I was little, so to be able to play now is wonderful.
Most of my grandchildren, they are willing to join other clubs because they have seen that it's very interesting, because the way they used to look at me and the way I used to feel when I was sick, they are now seeing a lot of good changes, that my health has improved.
The idea for the tournament arose in 2007 as a way to improve the health of local women. For its founder, 57-year-old Rebecca Nitsanwisi, who is fondly called Mama Baker. It came out of her sense of personal challenge following a cancer diagnosis that once bound her to a wheelchair.
The thing that I want to achieve is for older or the elderly or older women to come together and enjoy. Remember that we are neglected. At the age of 60, you retire and there's nothing that you can do. We look after the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren.
According to government statistics, almost 40% of South Africa's children live in households headed by their grandparents. That is mainly due to poverty, cultural traditions, and urban migration. Rebecca says grandmothers should not be saddled with the responsibility of raising their grandchildren. For now, Football has given these grannies a new lease of life. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One.
That is what's going on in Africa this week. Find us on all our social media platforms. Talk to us there. Your story matters to us. We will tell it to the world. Thank you for watching World of Africa on WION World is One. I'm Eric Njoka. I will see you on the next episode. Goodbye for now.
Catch me on Token Money Magnet, only on WION.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Imagine a world where owning your dream asset is just a click away, where wealth is no longer exclusive to the few. Tokenization, the game changer, transforming assets into digital opportunities. A revolutionary technology opening doors to a new era of investment. Don't miss Token Money Magnet, a bold initiative by Kalp Foundation. Only on WION World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Empowering the tokenized revolution. Tune in to Token Money Magnet, only on WION.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation. Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
It's the 8th of April, and this is Race to Power on WION World is One. Thank you for joining us. I'm Eric Njoka. Markets continue to remain under a cloud of uncertainty as China asserts it will never accept the blackmail nature of the US to Trump's threat to ratchet up tariffs on imports from China to more than 100%. Beijing has vowed to fight till the end. And high drama is currently unfolding at Israel's Supreme Court. Justices are hearing several pleas against the Netanyahu government's decision to dismiss internal security chief Ronen Bar. Welcome to the show. Global markets are on a free fall. Trillions have been erased from stock values. The US-China trade war has reached a fever pitch, leaving investors scrambling and economies on the edge. The US markets have today opened in the red. The tariff bomb is wiping out 10